So we start sharpening chisels and plane blades, which is effectively the same process. We're looking for beveled edges on one side and flat backs on the other side. You may well be faced with something like this. For that you need some kind of grinder, because this is a lot of work to do by hand. It is possible, but it will take a long time. So we're going to use this machine to change the shape. What it will do is give you a hollow shape because of the curve of the stone. So this is called hollow grinding. Before we do that, we need to make sure the stone is flat, because this stone has had a bit of wear and we're going to grind it flat. I've set the angle, as you'll see in the picture. These stones absorb a lot of water, so you'll have to top it up regularly. You can see where it's starting to take metal away. We'll have to adjust the angle when we've got a bit further. It's quite useful if you're trying to match a bevel that you've done previously. Stick a bit of marker pen across the tool and take a couple of rubs, and it will show you where it's going to be touching. Ideally I want to lower the setting on here just a fraction so that I match my original bevel, just a tiny bit. And now hopefully that's matching up the bevels. That's pretty much there. Okay, so we've now got rid of all but the last vestiges of the original honing, and we've got a nice hollow grind. We've just hollow ground this chisel, and when it's honed by hand, as this one has been, you'll start to see you're starting to lose the hollow. Eventually the hollow will disappear entirely, and then you re-establish it to make it easier for you to maintain the correct angle. What you want to do now is get the back lovely and flat, because having the back of a chisel or a plane blade beautifully flat will really help your sharpening. What we've got is a nice coarse diamond stone and some water. Any stone will do if it's coarse and flat. Even abrasive papers can be used at this stage if you stick them onto a flat surface, something like 120 or 240 grit, wet and dry. So you're going to try and flatten the back of this tool, and as you'll see, it's going to take a long time. So to help, put a block of wood on it, put a bit more pressure on. Try and avoid tipping it in any way, because you really want that surface flat. So we have a medium grit stone. If you are buying a stone roughly 1,000 grit for the initial hand honing, and then we have a fine stone which is something like 6,000 to 10,000 grit. I'm going to simply establish a slightly flat bevel on the front and back edges of this, and I'm going to do it by feel. So I can feel the front and the back of the hollow touching the stone, put my fingers either side so that I can keep that. I can pick it up, and I've got a tripod. So the blade plus my finger and my thumb, as long as I don't move them, I can put them back down in a nice consistent position. Just run it back and forth. Normally 2 or 3 times is enough. So now we've got a little polish along the front edge and a little polish along the back edge. Now we go to the fine one, and the back of your chisel will need to be done first. I can feel what's called a burr on this edge, a roughness. Don't run your finger across it, you'll cut yourself. Just feel that roughness. And now, crucial thing is keep it flat. And I should now be able to get rid of that burr, and it will appear on this side. So now I can feel that roughness on this side. Now I'm going to work on that side. Again, maybe 3-4 passes. This should be enough. And that burr is gone because it's flipped over to the other side. I can feel it there. Each time you do this, the burr gets smaller and smaller. Okay, so the same method can be used for plain blades. So I will just loosen the cap iron, slide it back, flip it off, and then we have the back of the blade the same way as a chisel. Because of the width of the blade, I tend to hold the plane diagonally and work in a similar way. So knives used for violin making tend to be quite personal, and usually I have a double bevel rather than a single bevel. And it even has a little bump called a knee, which allows you to cut in the middle of a foot without disturbing the edges. Press the blade onto the stone to establish the angle that's already there, and maintain that angle of using my finger to touch the stone and my knife. If I keep going like that, I'll end up with a dead straight blade, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tilt the knife left and right, and that will maintain the curve. So I'm doing the tip now. I'm just dropping it down, so I'm doing the middle, and I'm just dropping it down a bit more, so I'm doing the back edge. Once you've established a burr all the way along, you know that this surface is meeting this surface. And I'm right-handed, I can't work that way around, so I have to work in a slightly different way to do this side. Same principle, find the angle. This time I'll work forward and backwards, and I'm tilting it forwards to do the tip of the knife, gradually dropping it down to do the back of the knife. That is the movement without changing this angle. Got rid of the burr, so I can flip back to the original side. And just like with the chisel, you're feeling for a burr and you're working on the two sides until the burr is gone. These are scrapers which you'll be using for finishing a fingerboard perhaps. The cutting edge has got two cutting edges on either side, and the face, the surface there needs to be nice and flat. Using the file will give us a nice flat surface, but it will also give us some very big rough burrs on these edges, and we need to polish that surface. We need to polish this surface so that the corner of the scraper is a sharp edge. So step 2, I'm going to take it down to a polish, and because it's difficult to judge 90 degrees, it's quite helpful to get a block of wood which has got a 90-degree edge and use that as a guide. Keep the block moving because then you won't grind grooves into your stone. We should end up with a nice flat, smooth surface here. Now I need to remove the burr. Polish that on. You can have 8 sharp edges on a scraper, but I recommend avoiding sharpening the ends because you'll cut yourself when you use it. I've polished that, now there'll be a burr on this edge. So we'll go back this side. Rather like with the chisel, when you've sharpened a scraper a few times, you won't need to do this very much because it'll already be done. Run the tool flat along that edge, quite firmly. And then you don't have to put it in the vise, but it's probably helpful. So when we run the burnisher along the edge, we're going to cut it at an angle, do it at an angle. So if I put it flat like that, it won't produce a burr on the two edges. So we're just going to tilt it a little bit towards the side where I want it to cut, and I'll run that along about 5-10 degrees, and I'll also do it the other way to create a sharp edge on the opposite side, so we'll have two cutting edges. Just test it on here. You can see it's bringing up shavings. You can also do this freehand, especially with awkward shaped scrapers. Just run the steel up the edge like that.